This video is made possible by our patrons.
You do it, you're in charge.
Yeah, Liam, you do it.
Hi guys, we're back with another podcast on Metabreakers. I'm joined with the rest of the WGO team. We got Luke in my left, my right, I don't know. We got JP above me, and we got Fabian as well. So, basic rundown of the show today is how we have come across with dealing with Gotrek. It's not the best ways to deal with him because it's very depending on the scenario of the mission and your army, of course. But we'll go into the ways that fits with our armies that we've used and chose to deal with them. So, Dan, to you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think if for people who are lucky enough not to know about the Gotrek situation in AOS 3, I think we can give a quick rundown of that. Basically, Gotrek is a apparently small hero who can be allied into any Order army in Age of Sigmar. He's 430 points. He has 8 wounds, and appears quite small. But he has a 4-up armor save, but he has a 3-up ward save, which is already very, very good. And he reduces all damage he takes to 1. So if you hit him with 6 mortal wounds from a spell, that's only 1 mortal wound, which then he can save on a 3-up. So he's very, very hard to kill. And in terms of his damage output, he also does loads and loads of damage. He's got 6 attacks, 3s and 3s. He rerolls to hit and wound, and it's 2 rend, 3 damage, and any 6s to hit are an additional d6 mortal wounds. And if he's still within 3 inches of whatever he was fighting at the end of the combat phase, he piles in a second time. So he's very, very strong. What's weak about him is he only moves 4 inches, and you're not allowed to set him up at all. So you can't teleport him or anything like that, even if you have other shenanigans. There are some ways Order armies can give him run and charge or something like that, but in general, he's slow. That's his weakness, and he can't be teleported around. So I'd say one of the reasons that he's coming out more in Age of Sigmar 3 is his points have gone down from Age of Sigmar 2. The board has gotten smaller. Missions have gotten closer together, so it's easier for him to use his little 4-inch move to get places. And armies are also smaller in general, so there's less stuff in armies. There's less chaff to hold them up. And, killing someone's one big unit is now a bigger deal because that's a higher proportion of their total points in a smaller game. So that's sort of the Gotrek situation as it is. And I'd say the main thing that sort of people run into when they first see Gotrek is they're like, okay, I see this little dwarf. I'm going to charge in my unit that's good at killing stuff. They bounce off him, they do a couple wounds.
See what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, let's see. Maybe I'll roll a bunch of 6s. And they roll a bunch of 6s, and he just rolls some 3s, and then he's on full health, and he kills whatever attacked, and you're like, wait. And then maybe you try again. You still don't quite believe it. So I think that can often catch people by surprise. And, and we're going to get into basically once you know that he is like this sort of little nuclear bomb on tiny legs running around the field, then that's sort of where we are, where we're like, okay, how do you deal with that? And as you said, it's different for armies, different for battle plans, different for players, for different players. But yeah, we're going to get into that. So, Luke, why don't you start us off with some sort of general approaches to you find out you got your draw, right? It's game 4. Tomorrow morning, you realize you're playing against Gotrek. What are you thinking? What are your sort of general strategies, like for a general person who might be playing any list or something like that? What sort of stuff are they thinking about for not feeding the Gotrek?
So I read the War Scroll, and then I get the table. And then
get a really good grip under the table.
He's movement 4. So at the end of the day, his maximum threat is so you stay 16.1 away from him. He's not going to charge you.
Yeah.
So if you turn up your army and you look at your army and you look at their army, well, my best way of dealing with him is to kill their army and try to avoid him as best as I can. So if you've got small units, a good tournament list should have a couple of cheap chaff units, which is small, cheap units, and generally they need to be quite fast. Mm-hmm. To get ahead and screen things off.
Yeah.
So if you've got some of them, use them to just go 3 inches away from him or as close as you can away from him.
Yeah.
And try and wrap him as best as you can with this said screen unit. And the best that you can do is move around it and trying to get somewhere else, or he's just charging that screen and he's killing that screen in his turn. So turn one, he's not going anywhere. He's just going to try and run to an objective, smart player with him, and just sit on that objective.
Yeah, and be a threat there.
You know, and so turn one, he's not going to kill any of your threats. So if you've got chaff, try to tie him up for the next couple of turns, and then just to try and absorb the damage that he's going to do turns 4 and 5 as best as you can. So you're playing the mission as best as you can to win and avoid him whilst trying to kill their army, which is still very hard. But don't go into the game thinking I've just lost as Gotrek. Big little guy's going to come and kill me.
And I think you've made a good point, Luke, about it's like either you want to be 16 inches away from him where he can't charge you at all, or if you're forced to give him something to charge, you want to be 3 inches away from him, so that yes, he gets a charge into hopefully a unit that you don't care about dying, but he's not getting free movement out of it. So he's not making it across the board. He's just charging 3 inches into 5 direwolves, 10 direwolves, and not getting extra movement out of charging, and then being even more in your face when you have to deal with him. So sometimes it does mean you want to throw that sacrificial unit, like Luke said.
And with that screen, you can that where your redeploy can go onto that screen. Redeploy, you roll that big 6, he's going to be in his charge. So that screen could then tie him up for another turn.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's all down to whether he gets to charge or anything. But if your redeploy is not important somewhere else, you can use your redeploy to then try and tie him up.
And get him. You're effectively getting him out of the game for a turn then. Which is a big deal. And redeploy in general is good against the unit. If he moves 4 inches and an average redeploy is 3.5 inches, then, if everyone's rolling average dice, you can sort of stay away from him the whole game. Now, that's unlikely given that, he's probably running towards a big blob of models. But, at least for a couple turns, you can sort of tie him up and you can tie him up or run away from him and focus on killing other stuff.
And then another general thing on his scroll, he's got to fight twice. So, but it's not fight twice straight away. So, if he's gone into a big, one of your really important units, and you don't want to lose it straight away, you just make sure you take. It's obvious, but you take those models more than 3 inches away, and he can't fight it, and can't get that unit again. So.
So it's only at the end of the combat phase if he's still within 3 inches. So if exactly as Luke says, if he's hitting a unit you have and he's taken half of them off, make sure you're taking them away from Gotrek, not leaving them to try and hit him back, because most likely you're not going to do any damage. You just sort of damage mitigate by getting yourself out of that combat. Okay. And all right, Fabian, do you have any tips? Any general tips? So you're going up against Gotrek. What are you thinking?
Okay, so if it's general tips and we're not talking about specifics, I've got a lot of specific answers.
Yeah, sure.
I know what we'll get to, but it's the same thing as what to reiterate. You need to realize that some models like Morathi, Gotreks, sometimes Morathi's a different kettle of fish because she's so fast, but something like Gotreks, you need to understand your army. You need to understand whether your army can deal with that model.
Yeah.
And if it can't, then exactly the same as what Luke's saying. You need to stay away from it. So Gargants, for instance, just as a general rule of thumb, can't deal with Gotreks, right? So Gargants. So realistically, you need to be able to put your toe on the opposite end of an objective, literally to claim that objective and stay as far away as you can from Gotreks.
Yeah.
And then you can sacrifice one giant, for instance, for him to go into that one giant.
Yeah.
While your other 3 or however many more you've got can claim the other objectives and then go on and kill the rest of the army. So you need to know how to resource manage your army. Whether you decide you want to just avoid him if you're really fast and you've got say you've got really fast moving cavalry, or you've got running charge, then you can kind of pincer around him.
Yep.
Leave him in the middle and go around the army to get to the other stuff. Or it's literally you just play the mission and you go, okay, Gotrek, here's 10 zombies or here's 10 gits, and play with those for one turn. Okay, next turn you can have another 10 gits, that sort of thing. So I think resource management is key. And I think you need to know whether you want to sacrifice part of your army to deal with that problem or avoid it altogether.
Yeah. And I think a thing you've sort of touched on there in general is like you might just be forced to you should know your army well enough to be ready to change your game plan up. You know, your Gargants, maybe you're like, I just want to sit on the objective, versus most armies I can tank the damage from them, and you know, I still win on attrition. With Gotrek, you might just see, okay, look, I put one toe on the objective, Gotrek comes towards me, and now I just abandon the objective because I'm gonna lose it anyways, because Gotrek's gonna kill the Gargant, so I might as well just leave. You know, and you just sort of, you change up your game plan, you come up with a different idea, and it might not be optimal, but it sort of can push you forward in the long case. And the other thing you can always do is do stuff like pretend, you know, you just assume you can't win unless you roll a 6 on the next priority, and you just run right past Gotrek. You know, you just put your Gargant next to him, and you just say, look, I don't think I can win unless I win priority, so I'm just going to play like it's guaranteed to me. And then you just sort of, you can go for these sort of high risk, high reward plays that applies to any bad matchup. But if you might find yourself and say, oh my, there's no way I can avoid Gotrek next turn. Okay, I'm just going to pretend. I'm just going to hope. Maybe this is the time that he doesn't roll any 6s, doesn't do the mortal wounds. Anything like that. Like sometimes, again, versus any army, any bad matchup, sometimes you just have to take high risk plays that will often not work out, but if they do, that's the way you can win. I think sometimes it's about playing to win, not playing not to lose. If you play too defensive and stuff like that, sometimes you just end up getting punished for it.
It's just against him. Like, have a practice. If you're finding your round you're losing against him constantly, like, have a practice. Like, just get your mate or whoever you're playing against, or play a dog, play a cat, put Gotrek's opposite your army or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
This is a comment on how easy it is to play Gotrek.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point.
I lose to my I lose to my cat pickles all the time, like, because of is that good? But look, just practice, like,
and
put
play
it down,
as him.
and
You can practice with him and see what you find where you're like, oh, he was really so strong when I played against him, but when I played as him, I was afraid that my opponent would do this or something like that. That can also be a good insight. And if it's, again, if you play any order armies, you can just put him in and you have a practice game with him, and you're like, oh, okay. My opponent went, Darren Watson, shout out, was saying, look, when I found it hard when people went a lot to the flanks, and because I'm deploying Gotrek in the middle, because I want him to have the most options, and and then you're like, oh, I found that was quite effective when people played against me, and so now I'm going to do that when I play against future Gotreks.
It's like if a lot of people are putting like Gotreks in his like 1-drop armies, then like Luke broke the meta with it by going just minimum drops, 10-12 drops. You get to see where their whole army is put down, and all of a sudden now you can dictate where your army is going to be. And theirs is not. So
I drop.
You need to start thinking outside the box, really, if you're going to be playing against like these sort of god characters. And just look at the problem and work with it.
Yeah. And I think we can move on to specifics after this, but I think one general point is in this sort of meta where a lot of people do have god characters, what you want to avoid is testing your god character against Gotrek, where you're like Kragnos is really good at killing stuff, so I'm gonna see, can he kill No, that's what Gotrek wants. No. Gotrek wants the highest points value thing in your army to come to him and fight him. So in general, I mean, Marathi, I guess, is a counterexample, right? Maybe you can tie Gotrek up with little Marathi, where you're like, okay, I'm taking 3 wounds a turn anyways. Now Gotrek is stuck fighting little Marathi while I'm doing whatever I want, and she'll die in 2 turns. But Gotrek's not getting anything done. But in general, We'll get to stuff that can kill him in the future. But if you're not sure, if you're like, I do a lot of damage, maybe I'll kill him. The answer is probably you won't kill him.
Get out of your head, like just inevitable that you probably can't kill him. I mean, there's only we're going to specifics of armies that can kill him, but like just evaluate whether you can or not, and be honest. And if you can't, then just avoid
no shame in that. I don't think I've played an army that could kill Gotrek in a long time. So
exactly.
So,
there's another general that everybody has access to. It does require the priority roll, which everybody loves. But in the realm at the moment, you can burn objectives. So the people at the moment that he can just go, well, I'm just going to run him onto this objective. Whatever you've just said is irrelevant because you're never going to get me off this objective. Well, if you win that turn,
Yeah.
You go, well, you can have the turn. I'm going to burn his objective, and it's forcing him then to do something.
Absolutely.
He's
And even then,
probably out of
he
position.
also. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. Yeah, so he's out of position at that point. So everybody has access to
Exactly.
that. It relies the priority roll, but even if the Gotrek player might not even remember
Exactly.
the
That's what I was
and
going to
he'll
say.
take
Yeah.
the turn, and you go, well, I'll take the objective off. So then it's still heavily weighted in your favor if you win the priority roll or not, as long as it's in your mind that you know
That's a really good point. Because again, when he moves 4, like if you have burned the objective that he's on, he's now got to go. I mean, the objective, at least he's got to go 6, right, to get off that objective. So again, and that ties into what Fabian's saying about knowing your army and being like, okay, maybe I don't want to burn that objective because it's close to me or whatever, but you got to be ready to change your game plan up around things like Marathi and Gotrek that do warp the game around them to a different sort of Age of Sigmar that can't be solved by just pure damage. And on that note, there are some armies that can just solve Gotrek with pure damage. So I don't know, Liam, if you wanted to share any of your army experiences about what you want to slap Gotrek with.
I think mine's probably the most headstrong one and the most orky way. But it's going to be, because we've got Drakfoot and it's been known for a while.
Yeah.
They ignore the ignores.
They ignore ward saves. Yeah.
Well, they ignore ward save, but they haven't got much higher end multiple attacking units.
Mm-hmm.
So that was basically the downside, because he's got such a high save, and you've got the add 1 to saves now, and you can heal D3 now. But we've got the Rogue Idol from Forge World. I've got my little Rogue Idol here. I just keep him there.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of attacks.
You just keep him there
He's like a cat. He's just there
to ward off the idea of Gotrek. Whenever he sees Gotrek, he's like, wait.
He's right next to Gotrek.
Do you just see me? Do you just push him together on the desk and then just roll the dice to get the practice in? You're like, get him, boy.
Every time I see a Gotrek on the board, I get my Rogue Idol and smash my Gotrek with it. Like this basic.
Yeah. Let him know.
But yeah, the Rogue Idol's got 10 attacks with its boulderous fists and stuff, and 2 attacks with the head. So it's got 12 attacks, hitting on 3s, 2s, -2 rend. So it's reliable damage.
Yeah.
But then the Drakfoot comes in, where it ignores the ignore. So hopefully all of your stuff hits, or at least you wound it enough that you get him low enough. But then it's not just him I'm thinking that we're going to have. We're going to have units of arrow boys peppering him down, just so he gives a little bit more support for the Rogue Idol to go in and then wipe him out in one go. And the Rogue Idol's pretty tanky as well, because it's got a 4-up save that you can make a 3-up, and it's got a 5-up ignore with 16 wounds.
Yeah,
yes.
Which is good exactly against, and you can put Mystic Shield on him or something like that, and that's good against having that ignore helps you deal with the mortal wounds he does, and
it's just quite a nice tanky unit that can do a decent amount of damage. I think it's 400 points, 420 points in the new edition.
Yeah, a little more than 400, I think. Yeah.
But it's quite good because obviously it gets all the bonuses for Bone Splitters as well. So you can cast spells on it, give them double move. You can make it fly. You can make it have 6s explode and do more attacks.
Yeah.
And you can stack
and
that
also
ability on it.
In general, right, those Bone Splitter abilities for flying and mobility are also good at making sure the stuff that you're engaging Gotrek on your turn, so on your terms. So you can sort of, if you shoot Gotrek and you're like, oh, I did no damage, I low roll did no damage, you can still sort of have your Rogue Idol set up and be like, okay, I'm going to try again next turn to shoot him, and then hit him with the double move flying block of stone monster. So again, after all we said, you can always just pump up your orc monster and just smash him.
Yeah. And I think there's
how many points is Drakfoot?
Drakfoot's free. It's just a thing.
It's a self action.
Yeah. So
I thought
similar.
it was a model.
You were like, wait, where do I buy a Drakfoot?
We're looking for this model. I was like, well, this model doesn't exist. Like, what's this?
Oh my god, I've already gotten multiple messages. So I'm playing Lost in the Dam Scottish tournament next weekend, and I'm playing Bundo Whalebiter. Speaking of Mega Gargants, who's the Kraken Eater Merc, I've gotten multiple messages. The list went live today. I've gotten multiple messages that are like, "Where is Bundo's War Scroll?" And I just replied to the last one. I was like, "What do you mean? He's an Anvil of Apotheosis hero." So see what drama I can stir up there.
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah. So Drakfoot, good example. Fabian, I know you have like 1,200, so Luke, you go next. So some specific army approaches for dealing with Gotrek.
Well, I watched the FaceTimer show last night, and you can tell that Ross absolutely loves Gotrek. It's his favourite model, right? And Byron loves him as well. It's like the fluff, so they just really like Gotrek. So, but they're taking like weaker armies. They're going to an event this weekend. Fabian's also at that event. But Ross is taking OBR, and Byron's taking Slaanesh. And though you would think those armies don't really have a way of dealing with him, which they don't really have a way to kill him, but if they go the general way. But Ross has got a few harvesters, so if he rolls high on his foot, then he can probably hold him in place. And he has got fast units, so he could probably trap him up for a few turns in his OBR. And then Byron has got Sigvold, and he's another one that ignores the
ward.
So if he chips away with his bliss barbs and then gets the big old charge from Sigvold, goes in, can maybe get the heroic kill on him.
Yeah, you can. And also, Sigvold also has a 4-up ignore, so when he does get slapped back by Gotrek, it doesn't look good for him, but he's got, he'll survive a third of the time or something like that. So again, if you're in this matchup and you're desperate, you can be like, look, I'm going to put Sigvold in and I'm going to hope for that 1 in 3 that Sigvold's still alive, and then you, as you say, you chip away at him, you do a couple wounds with bliss barbs.
Because in Slaanesh they have summoning as well, so you can have some demonettes or...
Exactly. If you can buy 1 turn and then summon 10 demonettes to screen something off or get on an objective to steal it from Gotrek, he still only counts as 2 models on an objective. So, yeah, they do...
on the Slaanesh front, they have got Glutius...
Glutos, yeah.
Glutos has got an amazing spell, which would probably take Gotrek out the whole game.
Yeah,
if you've got that model,
because it halves your move and all your run and charge moves.
I'll get his scroll up for us. So
it's a huge scroll, but yeah, I think the long and the short of it is Glutos has a bonus to cast, and he halves your move, runs and charges. So Gotrek is now moving 2 inches, running 3 inches, and charging. If you combine that also with redeploy, he's never getting.
Simon Hall, one of our friends, he had Gotrek in an order army and he lost to Slaanesh.
Yeah.
They had this model and he said it's called Crippling Famishment, and it halves his move and his run rolls and his charge rolls.
Yeah.
So take him out of the game.
Just go, nope, stop.
Nope. And I think, again, this is especially as we go into a new edition. Like, I've already seen stuff, where people are like, look, we should ban Gotrek. And yes, I agree, obviously. No. But, like, we are just getting into a new edition, and it's like the stuff that people haven't even thought of. I imagine we haven't seen like what the best list is going to be in for the next 6 months. We haven't seen it at a tournament yet, but there are options for dealing with this stuff that if you haven't played the matchup yet or played it multiple times, you just might not have thought of yet, or tweak to your list maybe. And so I think it's just important to like say, you might feel like, oh, I'm playing Slaanesh, they're a weaker battle tome, and now I've come up against Gotrek. I feel like I'm a huge underdog. And then you can be like, oh, actually, even though Slaanesh aren't as strong overall, they have this spell on Glutos, which just absolutely takes Gotrek out of the game, as we said. So, like, it's just important to keep your mind open and like think about what how you can play it and tweaks you can make to your list and stuff like that. And just because like the game's wide open now, there's loads of stuff that we're not going to see that people aren't going to see coming that you can do. And also, it's a good time in the beginning of 3.0 to just beat Gotrek on the basis of knowing the rules for 3.0 better than your opponent. Gotrek is like, oh, I'm just going to kill Nagash, easy peasy. He moves 4 inches forward to go for a 7-inch charge. You redeploy Nagash. He's now on a 10-inch charge. He fails the 10-inch charge. And then you're like, okay, now Gotrek was dead for a turn because he forgot about the redeploy ability and didn't go for a new thing. So stuff like there's a lot to remember too. And it also means that you can just do something like, I'm going to be really good, I'm going to score all my battle tactics, I'm going to score my grand strategy, and play that way. And so the Gotrek player is sitting there like, oh, I've had, more objectives, been getting the better of the primaries, but you've just been playing the mission smart enough that you can sort of come ahead by 2 or 3 points at the end of the whole thing. So, yeah.
And then I've been playing a lot of slaves, Be'lakor, obviously an obvious one.
Yeah.
That does take him out for a turn, so don't think I've got Be'lakor, he's out of the game. And you don't always roll that 3+. But it is a good counter. And then the Khorne Demon Prince, obviously halving his run, halving his jump.
Yeah.
Basically makes his threat you stay 10.1 away from him, he's never charging you as long as you've got that Khorne Demon Prince ability up.
Which is huge, which is a huge bubble compared to Gotrek's move. And you can again combine it with redeploy. You can redeploy a model so that it's safe within the within the Khorne bubble and stuff like that. So, and also with Be'lakor, you can Be'lakor other stuff that means you are safer to deal with Gotrek. If someone's playing Techless and Gotrek, I don't know what sort of terrible human being would do that, but you can still Be'lakor Techless, and you're like that, because I was dealing with less threats for 1 or 2 turns depending on priority, I was able to stay safe away from Gotrek for longer, something like that.
Same as that Barathi Gotrek.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you don't. Yeah.
Fabian, do you want to talk about your ways? You played him, haven't you? So.
How long we got, boys? I don't want to give away all my secrets. 'Cause I'm at a tournament this weekend, but so a generic one that everyone can pretty much take is shackles, right?
Yeah.
No one's talking about the endless spell shackles, right? So preventing him from charging in. So, obviously we talked about redeploy, any kind of ability that you've got to mess with movement as well, like any generic spells that you guys have got out there on your war scrolls. We talked about redeploy. Now I want to talk a little bit more about summoning. Summoning harks onto the point where we were talking about beforehand of feed him chaff, right? So if you're summoning on like Beast of Chaos, right? They can do like all herd. They can summon on units. So just give him a unit of Ungor to play with in front of him. Like put it in front of him, so he either has to run around the 3-inch bubble to get around them to get into something more juicy, or he goes into Ungor and he spends the whole turn killing like a 60 a free unit. Do you know what I mean? He's not even killed anything. Yeah. I heard Ross talking about he was interested last night in regards to how his OBR can deal with it. But like Luke was saying, get your harvesters behind your big block, roll your 4-ups, your golden, you can pin it in place. Or you just give your Mortek guard, give him a unit of 10 to play with, and you redeploy and he's chasing after that unit of 10 the whole game while you're dealing with the rest of the army. So I mean, that was just a few in 10 seconds or whatever, but you need to look at your strengths of your army. I just go back to my original point. You need to look at your army. Can you deal with him? If you can't, then don't. You don't need to. He's 4-inch movement. He's 4-inch movement. I know he's got the run, and I know Darren Watson. He's got some tricks in regards to making him faster, so he can run and charge and some other bits. But you need to evaluate it. When you get to that table, you need to say, right, what army is my opponent playing? Is he playing, I don't know, Cities of Sigmar with Gotreks in it? Okay, awesome. Right, what abilities has my opponent got that can do, buff up Gotreks? If he hasn't got any, then you know what you need to do. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't go and... It's really important for people out there to not change your army or the way that you play just because a model like Gotreks is out there.
Yeah.
That is... is unkillable. You just ignore it. The age old ignore the big thing and kill the rest. Gotreks can't be everywhere. It can't be everywhere. So evaluate it when you get to that table. Don't just think, oh my god, he's got Gotreks, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to think, I've got Gotreks, therefore he's going to put everything into it. So one of the questions of the guys was on about talking about how he killed 3 Mega Gargants. Well, realistically, he should only be. JP said it earlier. He should only really be killing 1 or 2. That's it out of your whole army. You should be toe on the end of the objective. He can get nowhere near you on the first turn. Second turn, maybe if he's lucky, and after you've redeployed, you can maybe go into one of them. Retreat out. Is he going to finish that one, or is he going to try and go for another one? Think about it. Be smart.
Yeah, and it's not to say that it isn't hard. I think also one of the things is there are always going to be a lot of games in Age of Sigmar that are going to be hard games for you that you will not win most of the time. right? There are always going to be matchups like that exist. There are always going to be games that just exist like that, where the dice don't go your way, you fail all your spells, blah, 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 where you are in a losing position. But that doesn't mean that the game is lost. Like, you can be like, okay, I played Gotrek 10 times, and I lost 9 of those, and you're like, okay, well, 10% of the time you won, so just play to that 10% out, play to your 20% out. Like, I played versus Gotrek Marathi with my Gloomspike Gits list, which isn't even optimized Gloomspike Gits, and is not a great list, and I have lost, I think, multiple times.
List.
Yeah, with my pure Trog list, not pure Trog. But I've lost multiple times to Gotrek Marathi, but, you know, I played this weekend, and I won, and that's because I got lucky, as well as also, though, spending the whole game trying to play correctly. Like, again, I could play that game 5 times, and I would, you know, lose at least half of them, but you can, if you play, you know, you keep your head calm, and you just play to your outs and stuff like that, you will win the games where the luck does come through for you, you know, so yeah, I think it's just important to be in that situation where you're ready. Also, there are just some things, kind of like, that can kill Gotrek. You know, I think it's like 40 Sentinels. You know, they do mortal wounds, they do enough damage. You know, if you, what's good at killing Gotrek, because he reduces damage to 1, is high rend 1 damage attacks, or high amount of 1s are mortal wounds. So, you know, things that do a mortal wound on 6s, or 5s, like for Sentinels, are really good. Iron Breakers, who can get up to 2 or 3 rend, I think.
Iron Drakes.
Iron Drakes, yeah, sorry. Can get up to high rend and shoot Gotrek. Okay,
You got Unleash Hell as well.
Yeah. You shoot him when he charges. You can technically, I haven't really seen anyone do it, but if you have Geminids in your list, you can hit Gotrek with Geminids and stop him from being able to +1 save in the shooting phase. So if you are playing something like Cities with a bunch of Iron Drakes, you could hit him with Geminids and then shoot him, and you're sort of getting an extra 1 rend out of that.
Yeah.
If you're playing a melee list that has that, you could charge him with a monster, roar him. You roar him at the end of the charge phase, so he can't use the +1 command save ability, and then you attack him with your unit of high rend infantry. And you know, even something like no, Legion of Grief doesn't exist anymore. They have a -1 to save spell. I was like, what's the other Nighthaunt called? But yeah, if you have stuff.
Well, there's the new Nighthaunt faction, isn't there, where they can pick a hero and reduce the.
Oh, they can. Yeah. I forget what it's called, but yeah. So if you can reduce his save, and then you hit him with something like, you know, again, you know, even Chain Rasps, if he doesn't get +1 to save because you've charged him with a monster, with a Mourngull. This is quite a bespoke example, but let's say you charge him with a Mourngull, you roar him, he can't +1 to save, he's -1 to save, and you've got a bunch of Chain Rasps. It's like, okay, well he's now, instead of on a 3-up, he's on a 5-up, 3-up, which is a lot more of your damage going through. And you know, it's, again, these are situations where it's not, you know, you're not necessarily in a great position, but
yeah,
you are in a position where you can possibly kill him. So
I've seen him die to Rob played in we played in a team tournament, and Rob killed him with he had a unit of 30 horrors, and that was literally just all just all like rend 1 just shooting basically.
Yeah, because it's just 90 shots or whatever.
Yeah, it was ridiculous amount of shots that he put into him, and then he didn't kill him. I think he only did like 1 or 2 wounds when he actually shot at him, but he actually killed him when he charged in with Unleash Hell.
With Unleash Hell. Yeah, exactly. So not that I would ever want to advocate shooting on a live TV show, but but shooting in general, right? You do sort of, because Gotrek is forced to come to you, you probably know what he's going to charge into, right? He doesn't really have options to sort of sneak around and charge into something else or anything like that. That you can sort of say, okay, well, I'm going to shoot him with everything I've got, and then when he unleashes Hell, I'm going to when he charges me, I'm going to try and unleash Hell and get that damage back in. And what that can mean is that you want to make sure that whatever Gotrek's charging, you get your shooting unit somewhere within 9 inches of what Gotrek is charging. Oh,
he's put what about Nurgle?
Yeah.
Pile Piper.
Yeah, the anti-pile-in thing. That's that's a really good example, right? Where what you do is you put one model 2.9 inches, 1.1 inches away. I think Gotrek's only 1 inch reach, just out of his reach, but within his 3 inches. Then you stop him with the Bile Piper ability, just stop him from piling in. I think there's another one as well that stops piling somewhere, maybe the Fox or something. But
I think the fox
then he can't
does.
attack. So he's stuck in combat, can't attack. There, you've dealt with him. Also, Pesky in chat says Be'lakor can engage him if he's backed by pink horrors. And that's the thing, Be'lakor is ethereal. Be'lakor's got a ward save in Legion of the First Prince, and he can pass off wounds to the pink horrors. That's similar to what Luke was saying before about the Harvester. You've got the Mortek Guard who are on a 3-up or 4-up rerollable save. Then they've got a 6-up death save, and then they've also got the hard save of coming back to life from the Harvester on a 4+. So, there are units that can tank him. And you can even do, if you do have something like a big block of horrors, if you get him in a circle, you can sort of capture him. He gets to pile in once, and then you remove all the models that are within 3 inches, and he's still sort of stuck where he's not going to be able to get to any of your threats on the next turn, but he doesn't get his second pile in, so you've still halved his damage.
There is another generic way, takes some setting up, but Curse, the prayer, you can get that off, and anything that has a mass amount of attacks, that could also do him, like Reavers with a lot of shooting, with Curse spell will just kill him. Marauders.
Marauders, because also in, my friend pointed this out to me, in Khorne, because Curse is on a 4-up, which is sort of not reliable, but in Khorne, if you're within range of the altar, you can re-roll all your prayers, including the generic ones. So you get a re-rollable Curse versus Gotrek, which, he's not always going to be in range of 9 inches, but when he is, you can get that re-rollable Curse, and then, as Luke says, hit him with Marauders, who have a bunch of attacks, and they have that one rend. Again, you could charge it with a War Shrine to roar off the one save, and then all your 6s are doing Immortal, and you sort of turned yourself into Sentinel.
And if you want to be an awful person and play Zeke, then Kairos can...
change his charge.
There is nothing wrong with it. There is nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, Fabian, you say you don't like Gotrek, but secretly you do because it takes some of the heat off you.
Secretly, I love Gotrek. It's amazing. No one's talking about Zinch anymore. It's great.
Yeah. So we've got a good question in chat. His friends, Alex Edwards is playing Lumineth, and he's going to play up against his friends with Doc, with Morathi and Gotrek. Any tips? Should I try my 20 Sentinels on Gotrek or just ignore him? So it takes, if you want to kill Gotrek 70% of the time, you need 40 Sentinels. So 20 Sentinels you can expect to take off about half of Gotrek's wounds, which is pretty good, which is a lot more than Mega Gargant does. So depending on exactly what your list is, you can sort of do what we were talking about before, where you get your 20 Sentinels, you shoot off half of Gotrek's wounds, and then if you get a decent roll, you can maybe put something else into him that has reasonable rend and 1 damage. But
the best way in Lumineth Realm Lords to deal with him is go to your friend and go, "What did the fox say?" Then you put 4 foxes on the board, you wrap him with 4 foxes, and then he can't move. And then in his turn, they move 12 inches away, and they just keep doing that and say, "What did the fox say?" But Sentinels definitely.
Yeah, so you
every Lumineth Realm Lord list, and they can take him on, and especially with the Unleash Hell.
Yeah, so you can just he does heal, but D3 is sometimes 1, so you can focus pinging him. I mean, Morathi Gotrek is what I played against yesterday. And I think one of the things that you do, when you're sort of presented with the option of 2 unkillable models, part of it, what can be good, is just making sure, I think you probably want to make sure you're getting 3 wounds on Morathi every turn. So if you're sort of forced to choose whether you take a pot shot at Gotrek or getting those 3 wounds off Morathi, you might want to do that. It depends exactly what your list on, but you have got a list that is, theoretically equipped to be able to kill Gotrek. So you might want to sort of, if he's far away, if you're set up in a good position and there's not really anything else great to shoot, you can shoot him with your 20 Sentinels. You can get half his wounds off, and then you can shoot him again, with Unleash Hell. So keep your Sentinels within 9 inches of whatever it looks like Gotrek's going to end up charging, and all that good stuff. Because he can heal, but also healing is a heroic action that, 1, sometimes people forget, and 2, people might want to use on other stuff. Even if he does heal Gotrek every turn, that means he's losing out on a CP, he's losing out on Finest Hour, and you can do, you can sort of do other options. But
in all seriousness, if you do have a Wind Fox or Severus, you can just literally, as long as they've not got bow snakes, just to wipe them off the board, you can you can put that 3 inches away. It's like the same thing that Manfred can do. He can just go there, and you've got the ability then just to move away, and it forces him to. It really does reduce his movement because he can't. He has to physically move 3 inches around you. He can't just move through you. Anything like that can then avoid getting charged is a really good way. And Lumineth Realm Lords, I've got the Vox, which even just one Vox can really neuter.
Do the kangaroos have a pile out of combat sort of ability as well?
Yeah, I think that there was some part of it that came from the battalion. I'm not sure if that was the pile out, but yeah, it's another good thing. If the kangaroos, you can sort of go into him and then run and then pile out away from him. And yeah, again, you're sort of just messing with his movement and staying alive, which I think is good. And also Lumineth can do a lot of the stuff we've already talked about. You can use movement and other stuff like that. And also you can do goading arrogance on him, right? Where he's forced to attack the Cathalar, but if he's not in range to attack the Cathalar, he can't attack at all. And again, you can set yourself up position for that. Easier versus a 4-inch move model. He doesn't have a lot of options about where he's going to end up, so you can set yourself up for that in a reasonable way. Jimmy Wild's asking about Curse. We were just talking about it, so you can sort of watch that back. But basically, what we were saying is Curse. It's a short range, and it's not super reliable. So like, I wouldn't compromise your list to get Curse into it to try and deal with Gotrek. That's a bit of a stretch. But if you've got a priest in your list, I think Curse is quite a good spell. In Khorne, we said you can re-roll it. And if you've got a priest with Curse already in your list, which you can synergize with anything else, it's great if you can get it on Gotrek. It's definitely worth a punt of like, okay, I'm within 9 inches of Gotrek, which is reasonable because he only moves around 4. So.
And Skaven have got a Deceiver, which can then teleport a hero in range to Curse.
Yes.
So Skaven can do it more reliably. But yeah, it does require some kind of setup.
Yeah,
to then combo charge with said unit to then do all the damage to kill him. But yeah, it's good to have if it doesn't affect your list, like JP was saying, build around that. Just to kill Gotrek, then maybe it's not worth it, especially in the tournament scene.
Shout out to Jimmy Wild. No night cat for a while.
Oh, nice.
Right. Should we finish up there?
I think that's all the points, isn't it? Apart from the secret stuff that we are not yet.
Yeah, obviously expose. some stuff will not be revealed until
the tournaments are all out the way.
Until you see the replay of Fabian's game.
You just have like a hat with like Gotrek, but with like a cross, but with Ghostbuster style.
5 weird tricks to deal with Gotrek. Number 4 will surprise you.
Okay then. Cheers guys for viewing this podcast. I'm a little bit out of touch because I haven't done this in quite a while. But we're going to bring more and more of these out. Hopefully get 2 of these done a month. And get all the lads back on this and just chatting about random stuff about getting your games done. Mainly Gotrek, but this is the last one. I think next time we're doing monsters, aren't we?
Yeah.
We'll just try and get some of these quick shows out live, and if people want to chip in and ask questions or answer their questions.
Yeah.
But
obviously the monsters one will just be rule 1: don't put your monsters into Gotrek.
Yeah, I think that's rule 1 of every podcast we do.
Apart from Liam just pulls a monster out of random.
Yeah, I'll just get a rogue idol and throw it at it. Just yeet. Okay then, this is the end of the podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, help us out on Patreon, and just come back for next time. That's all we ask. Bye guys.
Cheers guys.
See you
later guys.
Bye.
This video is made possible by our patrons. If you want to know more about how to support us, click on the link to the right.